Hello, everyone out there. Welcome to the third episode of the Sean Sturrock Show. I am so fortunate and blessed to be sitting here with Miss Lisa Mann. She is a 25-year veteran in the real estate space, been doing some big things, hitting some high consistent numbers. Today, she's well up over 10 million in volume. She should close out 2022. Anyway, just has a great journey. Hopefully, you guys will get a bunch of nuggets from this. We'll be right back with you here in about 30 seconds. So stay tuned. I just got a grin every time I see that opening. That's a lot of old memories mixed in there for me. So anyway, so good to have you on board here, Lisa. Spending a few minutes with us today. So first of all, just how's your morning going? Everything going all right this morning?
Yeah, things are going great. Thanks for asking.
You got a busy day, it sounds like, lined up after this, right?
Yes. So I've got some closings coming up in the next few weeks. So we're trying to get final walkthroughs done, just, button down some last minute details.
Yeah. So you have a pretty good summer lined up even to close out August, right?
Yes. So yeah, fantastic. I've got the first week of August, I've got about 5 closings coming up. So we'll close the month out strong.
That is great. Congratulations. So, with all this production you got going on, who knows who'll be looking at this now or sometime in the future. But let's just start off a little bit so they understand a little bit more about Lisa and your background. Maybe tell us a little bit about maybe you, whether it's personal background, what got you into real estate, and what's this journey been like up to this point?
Okay. Well, early on in my career, I was working in corporate security and retail management. And as a part of that, I was moving a lot. At one point, I was moving like every 2 years, and I was a single parent, worked a lot of hours, and that business just wasn't conducive for my family life. So I decided to go into real estate so that I could basically, have a career that I found fulfilling. And I was able to, I actually made a commitment to myself that I wanted to have my daughter in the same house until she graduated from high school. And real estate was just kind of that avenue for me, kind of the means to get to that point. So decided to get into real estate and didn't really know what to expect, I guess. And, when you get your license and you're new, essentially people are telling you, oh, we'll go to this company, go to that company, do this, do that. You're getting a lot of information, a lot of feedback. And I did try a couple of traditional companies and did pretty well with them. But at the end of the day, always in the back of my mind, I was always thinking, I don't like giving up half my money to someone else. That was just always in the back of my mind. I was like, it just didn't resonate well with me. And after a while, I decided to get my mortgage broker license. I got my real estate broker license and started working with a private investor for several years. And essentially what he did was we funded loans that for people who couldn't get loans done under traditional terms. So I helped him manage that business. We managed that portfolio. And then around 2018, 2019, we started exiting that business, and I started formulating a plan to kind of just focus on my real estate firm. And the goal was in 2020, I was going to essentially shift my focus back to my real estate business full time. And then, of course, we know COVID hit. And I got a late start in 2020. I actually didn't get started until like July of 2020, but I feel like I did pretty well. For the end of 2020, I closed it out with $1 million in sales, had a few transactions under my belt. And, I was thinking when I did this, I'm like, oh, it's going to be a slow start. I'm going to have to start from scratch. Yeah. And I'm just going to have to build from the ground up again. And it's going to be painful. And I expected like this curve, right? And it wasn't a curve at all. It was more like a rocket ship, right? It just went straight up. And in 2021, I was at about 8 million in volume. And I was realizing quickly that my business was growing faster than I anticipated. And I wasn't prepared for that growth. And I started thinking about, okay, I want to attract some really great talent. I want to, be able to effectively manage my business. And I also want to be able to grow that business. But in order to do that, I needed to have technology. I needed to have resources to attract the type of people that I wanted. And I didn't have that. And so you kind of fast forward to, I think, October of 2020. And who popped into my life? Do you know, Sean?
Was it me?
Yeah. Yes, Sean popped into my life.
October 2021.
Yes, 2021. Apologies. Yes, 2021. Sean, I get this email from some random guy wanting to talk to me about EXP, and so as many of you guys know, when you're a producing agent, you're always getting recruited all the time from different companies. And I was like, oh, okay, I'll meet with him, see what he has to say. And so, of course, you know how that conversation went. We met, we had a nice conversation, and I went home, and I think I didn't talk to you for about a month, maybe. And then
Right.
you reached back out again, and I was still kind of mulling it over. And I knew, like, based on our conversation, I'm like, okay, the infrastructure is there for me. The resources, the technology, everything is there for me. But I still had reservations about going to EXP. And even when I signed up with EXP in December, I still had reservations and thought, well, okay, I'm going to give it a year. And if it doesn't work out, I'll just go back to doing what I was doing. And, here I am 8 months later, loving life at EXP.
So before we jump into that, right, and that is an interesting what's happened to you in the first 8 months over here. Let's back up a little bit for those that are looking at this and see if we can maybe even help some of those folks out, no matter where you're at right now. But you obviously did very well, like you said. It took off like a rocket ship when you got
Mm-hmm.
back to production here. Explain a little bit of that for being the solo agent. What are maybe some of the things that you think contributed to your business taking off like that?
Well, I think what contributed to my business is EXP, and I have a personal philosophy. I try to build my business one relationship at a time. And at the end of the day, you can have a lot of technology, you can have a lot of resources, but it really is about, building those relationships. And I think that basically is what helped me, because even though I wasn't in a traditional role in real estate, I always had those relationships. So when I went back into the business, that kind of helped me quite a bit.
Okay, I got you. And so let's talk a little bit about the transition. So when you and I were sitting down, obviously anybody watching this, Lisa, you being an independent broker, you're at 100%. You got a few fees here and there, but for the most part, you're 100%. So when you and I sat down, yes, you saw the technology, the systems. I think all the major players had been over here. And
Yes.
what I try to get across to a lot of people is I think a lot of your success in real estate has to do with who you hang around, who you were learning from, who you able to visit with on a daily basis that could really contribute to your success. And I think you saw some of those, but I remember you were so adamant about, listen, Sean, me going from 100% to an 80-20 split with a $16,000 cap definitely had you very weary. And I remember you saying to me, you said, Sean, the same thing you just said a second ago. You know what? We've been really giving it a lot of thought. Husband, I've been praying on it. We're going to come over and I'm going to give it a year. But I'm telling you, if I don't attain this one particular, we have a certain level of production over here at EXP that if you do that, you hit a position where the 16,000 you paid in, the company gives it all back to you in the form of stock. We call that position an icon agent. And it usually takes upwards of 7 to 8 million, 25 plus transactions, somewhere in that area. But speak to it for a minute, how you were so adamant about, I'm going to give this a year, and if it doesn't work, I'm leaving, versus where you're at now, 8 months in. Even if you were not to have hit this position or hit this particular rank to get the all the stock back or all the money paid back to you in stock. Speak to that for a minute. What has changed right now that you've come over and you've been on the inside of this now? What are you sensing and feeling as we move forward?
Well, first of all, I am going to make icon. That's one thing for sure.
Yes, thank God.
That's happening. That's a true story. But aside from that, I mean, the possibilities are endless right now, and the resources that I've seen in terms of, like, you could go into EXP and we have so much training that is available. And you've heard this story before, Sean. So in May, I lost all my client base in May because the interest rate spiked, and my folks either decided not to purchase, some of their financing fell through, and I found myself a week in May, I had 0 clients. I'm like, holy cow, I lost my customer base. I have nobody in my pipeline. What am I going to do? And that happens from time to time, right? So one of the things that I personally do is when I hit that brick wall, I start investing in myself again. I go back and I was like, okay, well, what can I do to, to kill the time while I regroup and also add value to myself? So I went in and started taking a certification to become a mentor, and started doing that. And by doing that, I just started realizing like there are so many more resources available, from the technology that we have to the mentor program to the coaching program that I'm now involved in, that even if I didn't make the icon, the resources, the training, the collaboration, everything that's involved, I feel like I've tripled my investment in EXP. And I consider my $16,000 cap, I consider that an investment into EXP. So everything I do is an investment, and I feel like I've tripled that already.
That is awesome to hear. Let me go back to about 2 minutes ago when you first started. You said something I find very key, because I just got through spending some time with another gentleman who's kind of a social media guru, and he was going down sort of the same path on what you commented on. In other words, you said when things dried up and you had nothing really in the pipeline, you turned to, I'm going to call it personal development. You turned to working on Lisa. What can I do to improve myself and how I might interact and find more potential clients and so forth? So go back to that just a little bit. So how did you discover this whole coaching program? Maybe a little bit about that, the mentor program, and what exactly you meant by you began to dig into how can I improve Lisa in your current position?
Sure. So one of the things before I came to EXP, I had done some research and had thought about hiring a business coach.
Okay.
And, based off that research, I realized very quickly to get a good coach, you're at $1,000 a month, maybe, for a really good coach, upwards of $1,000, depending on, how elaborate you wanted to go. So that had also been on my radar prior to coming to EXP. So like I said, there's just so many available resources in terms of training and certification. So like I said, I hit that brick wall and I'm like, I need to take a class. Let's see what's in there. And I started poking around. I was like trying to figure out what classes I want to take. And I see this, this certification to become a mentor. And I thought, this is fantastic. I would love to be a mentor because I want to grow my business. I want to grow my team. I want to grow my network. And I also want to ensure that the newer people that are coming along, that they're successful. And this is a way I can kind of help and give back a little bit. So I start doing this mentor certification, and I'm still honestly a little bit lackadaisical about it, because in the back of my mind, I'm still thinking, I got to get my clients back. I got to get my business back up and running. And I was really a little bit lackadaisical about doing it, but I'm doing it. And then one day I get this email that says, hey, you have 2 days. And if you finish your certification in a couple of days, then we're going to put you into a drawing to be part of a coaching program. I was like, well, that's really intriguing, because I know the value of a good coaching program. Right?
Let's pause right there. How do you know that? Because you and I've never talked about that. Have you had a coach in the past?
No, I did research on coaches. I interviewed coaches. I talked to people who had coaches. So I kind of knew like what that pay scale was, what it involved, and, hadn't really decided to pull the trigger because, for me, $1,000 investment, still $1,000 investment. And I want to make sure if I put my money into something that it's going to be, again, a return on investment for me. Yeah. So I really hadn't pulled the trigger on it. But when I got this email to say, hey, you can be in a drawing and, we're going to select people to be a part of this coaching program. I'm like, okay, let's get the certification done. Let's move forward. And so I pushed through, got it done, got my certification. And then it was maybe a week or so later, I got the email saying, hey, guess what? You're part of this coaching program now. And I can tell you the coaching program is fantastic. Sometimes, you might have 3 or 4 people on that Zoom coaching. Other times I'm the only person. And for instance, not too long ago, I was on a coaching session and the coach came on. He's like, oh, Lisa, I'm sorry, you're the only person on here. I'm like, $1,000 in my pocket, right? Because I know like that's the value of that session. And I'm like, hey, I love being the only person on here because now I have this undivided attention and I'm getting, all this fantastic information, how to, not only enhance my business, but to help the people that I'm mentoring. I can help enhance their business. I'm enhancing my personal life. I mean, it is extremely, extremely valuable.
Yeah, I'll speak to the value of the coaching program. There's another gentleman on our team that we work very closely with, Jeff out of Colorado Springs. And I remember him always talking about when he first got in, he went to one conference and learned about the Craig Proctor program. And there's a lot of them out there, but Feeney, right? Several of them that are so good. Anyway, this was back in 2001 and it was $2,000 a month. He said he pulled out a credit card, put it on there. He wasn't making any money at all, but he realized who you hang around with has a lot to do with your success, who you're learning from. He got in that coaching program, and he said within 6 months, he took off in his very first year, had like 30-something transactions and began to go from there. And he stayed with them for almost 9 years, paying $2,000 a month. But he said it turned him into, one time he was running the #1 KW office in all of Colorado Springs out of 5 different offices. So he contributes all of that to coach. And I only say that to go, we as a company, you guys, had just about 2 years ago, we bought Success Magazine. Through this magazine right now, we are implementing all different kinds of coaching programs are going to be available in all different areas. Depends on what somebody wants to grow their production in. And not only that, within our Freedom team, we have so many icon agents like Lisa. We have well over 100 plus agents that are doing big time volume from 8, 15, 20, 30, even as high as 50 million. Every week we get together as a team and collaborate. We mastermind and we do trainings on particular areas. Last week, or just this past Tuesday, was phenomenal. A lady got in and spoke a lot about probate. And that is an interesting little niche right there that a lot of agents aren't taking advantage of. And I've had 2 different speakers now in the last 3 or 4 months with the Freedom team come on and talk about probate. Both of them are not paying a lot of money to get like 75 leads a month. And they're both converting 2 or 3 of those into transactions. Now, probate's a slower process, but you start planting the seeds. And the first guy spoke, he was a huge producer doing, oh my gosh, well over 100 transactions a year. He said 25% of his business came from probate. I only mention that to everybody here is if you're watching this and by chance want to reach out to Lisa or I, would be more than happy to send you those 2 video trainings. They tell you where to go to, where to get them, how to work the probate leads and so forth. But if that's an area you're trying to go, how can I add another 5, 8, 10 different transactions to your business? That may be the little niche. Let us help you with that. But let me ask this as we kind of start maybe bringing this into a close. So something happened, right? You began to experience the coaching, the collaboration, and so forth. Now that you're a part of this whole thing, how does it change the way you're looking at EXP now from the inside versus when you were on the outside?
Well, I mean, it was absolutely the right decision for me. I think that, one of the things, it's kind of opened my eyes also to other opportunities, other ways to look at my business and also think about, because I think as an independent broker, I was just so much involved in the day to day. I wasn't future thinking at that point in time. And being at EXP, I'm thinking much, much more ahead in the future. And one of the things that we really haven't touched on, Sean, is legacy. Okay. And when I work with my clients, I always pretty much have a conversation with them about how to use real estate to build generational wealth. I'm extremely passionate about that. And one of the things that I love about EXP and being here is it allows me, even if I wasn't a broker, I'm here as a broker associate, but it allows a realtor to build generational wealth. And what I mean by that is what I started thinking about when I came to EXP, I was like, okay, I want to build this great business, but I want that business to live on past me. How do I make that happen?
Yeah.
And the model that we have here allows me to do that because I can pass my business on to my daughter when I'm ready to exit the business, and she can manage that business however she wants. She can either get involved in the day to day, she can, show clients, list houses, or she doesn't have to, you know, it all depends on how she does that. So, I mean, I love that, that we have that available to us. And we're talking about building generational wealth. What a perfect way to do it.
Yeah. It's interesting. Pardon me. I'll ask agents all the time. I'll say two. What are the two main reasons you got into real estate? And I generally hear money and
Yeah.
freedom. And
Mm.
that freedom really, I don't know if we should say freedom or flexibility, because
Yes.
it's very hard when you're get into real estate. And yes, you're getting there, but trying to leave maybe your traditional 9 to 5, and you want to have more flexibility in your schedule. But what really begins to happen, right, is you start to get into that production, whether it's 3 million, 4 million, 5 million, that freedom starts to become a very gray area, doesn't it? Right? All of a sudden, you just got to jump when a client calls or what have you. I say all that to go, nothing really changes here at EXP other than what you just said, the vision. I
Yes.
always tell an agent, when you look up after being at EXP for just 3 or 4 years, you will look up, and because of the multiple streams and the equity piece that can potentially set you up for retirement, the revenue share for those who might want to help contribute to helping the team grow, just these different avenues, most agents look up in 3 to 4 years, they have options that have never existed before in real estate. So I'm glad you brought that up, because that's the big thing I've noticed being here 5 years. I have so many agents right now that are so grateful and thankful that they made the move when they did, because now they're looking up and going, oh my gosh, I've got more of a cushion. And the big thing I hear, Lisa, the excitement about, especially veterans like you that I've talked to, that sometimes the word is tired. Like, oh my gosh, January 1st, I got to start over again.
Yeah.
Little different over here. You stay here for a few years, you kind of start getting more excited each year because you see an end in mind. Kind of like
Yes.
Stephen Covey always talk about, right? The 7 habits of highly effective people. He says, begin with the end in mind.
Mhm.
Sometimes that's hard as a realtor because you feel like you're on this, this turntable, this vicious wheel that it's hard to get off of it. But you get involved with the XP and you look up a few years later, and because of multiple streams, you get more excited going, man, if I just do this for a few more years, I can see where I'm ultimately going to be, as
Mhm.
in there can be an exit plan or the ability to maybe hand it over to somebody else within your family. So glad you spoke to that. So let's wrap up this last question. What would you tell agents right now who might be looking at this that are on the fence at all about EXP? What might you say to these folks?
I would ask them, what are you waiting for? I mean, it is absolutely the right thing to do for your business. And I don't think I think you should get off the fence immediately and just take a leap of faith, and you won't regret it.
Yeah. Well, I can tell you're definitely someone who's always about taking action, but yet I know you were hesitant when we first started.
I was.
Here's what I mentioned to a lot of you guys. If you're looking at this today and you're like, okay, I want to know more about it, obviously, please let us just walk you through the model. We'll personalize and all that. But the big thing I'd invite all of you to do, come be a fly on the wall on our masterminds. We do masterminds every single week. On Tuesday, we've added another one on Wednesday. We're doing some unique things on Monday, Thursday, after we all get together and visit for a few minutes. If you're a guest, we can tell you what those are also and see if you'd like to be a part of it. But we allow anybody anywhere across the country for free just to come mastermind. We have agents from all over the country that jump in that are not with the XP. We're not here to talk EXP during these masterminds. It's all about growth. How can we help each other, and how can we give back to
Yes.
a family of realtors across the country? So we invite you to come visit any of our masterminds, come contribute, or just be a fly on the wall. But any last thing you'd like to share here with our listening audience here before we sign off?
Not really, Sean, but thank you so much for having me today, for allowing me the opportunity to share my story. And I really hope that my story will inspire a lot of people to make that leap, because it's the best thing I've done for my career.
That's awesome. Wonderful. Thank you so much for your time, Lisa. Congrats on your success. I'll sign off here with my little 30-second show. When we appreciate it, you guys, for tuning in. Look forward to the next show coming up next week. Thank you so much, Lisa.
Thank you.